5 years ago, I fell in love with a male classmate sponsored by my father. So I tried every means to train him to become a big shot in the Beijing circle. But he cheated on the female student I sponsored. The female student wanted to completely replace me, so she asked someone to kidnap me and forced me to watch how they were intimate in front of me. I couldn't stand the humiliation, so I jumped off the building and committed suicide. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day of visiting the school 5 years ago. This time, facing the charm he deliberately exuded, I pretended not to see it. I turned my head and looked at the melancholy boy sitting alone in the corner. Only I knew that he would be the real big shot in the Beijing circle in the future. Sylvia, if you feel bored, go for a walk by yourself later. If you are tired, let the driver take you back. Looking at the familiar campus and listening to the same words as in the last life, I realized that I was reborn. Reborn 5 years ago, on the day of visiting the school. At this time, a middle-aged man ran over with a smile and shook hands with my father. Mr. Su, I have heard of your name for a long time. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come. Dean Zhang, no, I just did my little bit. While my father and Dean Zhang were talking, a ball suddenly flew over. I instinctively dodged it, but it accidentally hit Dean Zhang. Dean Zhang scolded, Ethan Chin, what are you doing? Ethan Chin didn't seem to expect me to dodge. Sorry, Dean Zhang, I didn't mean it. Ethan Chin lowered his head nervously, and his ears were red because of being scolded. In the previous life, he was like this, playing basketball with classmates, but he happened to hit me. He hugged me and went to the infirmary immediately. I was moved by his attentiveness and gentleness. Later, I saw him shine on the basketball court. That kind of innate confidence and sunshine made me want to understand a boy for the first time. After that, I sponsored him until he graduated successfully, went abroad to study, and then sent him to study business and management. It took me 5 years, during which I tried every means to train Ethan Chin into a big boss in the Beijing circle. But in return, he betrayed me. Not only did he cheat on the female student I sponsored, he also caused the Su family to go bankrupt, and I was forced to jump off the building. This time, facing the same scene, I decided to take the initiative. My classmate, it's a good thing to exercise during class, but you shouldn't play on the roadside. It's too dangerous. Fortunately, it was Dean Zhang this time. If it was another thin girl, I'm afraid she would have to be hospitalized. Then he said to Dean Zhang, as a manager, you should eliminate this kind of danger. Dean Zhang nodded repeatedly and believed in my opinion. Yes, Sylvia is right, I will let him go somewhere else to play. After saying that, he hurriedly drove him away. Ethan Chin had to leave even though he was very reluctant. Before leaving, he looked at me specially, as if he had never thought that I would react like this. It's ridiculous. I remember that in the last life, in order to make me happy, he told me jokes in different ways every day, and the sweeter the words, the more he liked to say them. I have never been so speechless as I am now. After he left, Dean Zhang and my father started chatting again. Your sponsorship this time really helped us at Beijing University. We wanted to renovate our laboratory building a long time ago, but the project was too big and the funds were not in place. Fortunately, Mr. Su helped. Thank you very much. In fact, in addition to some equipment and teaching buildings in the school, our school still has many problems, but we will try our best to help everyone who loves to learn. It's a pity for the student just now. His grades, personality, and physical fitness are all first class, but his family is not very well off. He was admitted by exception because of his good grades. I heard that Mr. Su has also sponsored many students before. I wonder if Mr. Su has any ideas in this regard this time? In the last life, it was because of Dean Zhang's strong recommendation that my father chose to sponsor Ethan Chin. And I have admired him ever since. The wrong choice started from this moment, and I will naturally not repeat the same mistake again. I turned my head and looked at a teenager sitting alone in the corner. He was so quiet that he seemed to be out of tune with the world, exuding a cold and melancholy temperament. This is him, who may help the Su family in the future. I pointed at him and said, I think he is pretty good. Dean Zhang was embarrassed by me. Sylvia, you may not know this student very well. He has an arrogant personality, bad behavior, and doesn't like to study. If you spend money on him, it would be a waste. I asked back, is he from a good family? Dean Zhang shook his head. That's it, everyone has equal opportunities, and this option will not be given up just because someone has bad behavior and doesn't like to study. Besides, this is just your excuse. As Dean Zhang, shouldn't you hope that every student has a good life? Dean Zhang lowered his head. If he doesn't study well and his family is not good, how can he enter Beijing University smoothly? Dad obviously thought of this. His face darkened, so he followed Sylvia's wishes and chose him. Dean Zhang called Adrian and the other two people to the office, but he didn't expect Ethan Chin to follow him. He looked at me unwillingly, as if asking me why I didn't choose him. Ethan Chin? I didn't call you, why are you here? Ethan Chin seemed not to hear Dean Zhang's words, and ran to me on his own, trying to attract my attention. Sylvia, my grades in all subjects are excellent, and I also love various sports. Why don't you choose me? He widened his eyes, revealing a hint of sadness. Why, he still has the face to ask why. Just looking at his expression, it seems like he has lived a new life. On the other hand, Adrian's attitude is like he doesn't care about it. I said with a cold face, it's just that some people need it more than you. I continued, if I'm not mistaken, your shoes are limited edition, and it's hard to buy them on the market. Ethan Chin was stunned and explained, this is a fake I bought, it's worthless. I stared at him for a long time until he lowered his head guiltily. We have lived together for so long, I know him too well. He is a very face-conscious person, especially when meeting important people. He wants others to notice him quickly, so he starts with his favorite sports. I guess he must have spent a lot of money on this pair of shoes. He really does not care about anything to achieve his goal. Besides, this is also Dean Zhang's decision. If you have anything to discuss, please go and discuss it privately. Dean Zhang understood immediately and asked him to leave quickly. After he left, I paid attention to the man in front of me. He has three-dimensional features, deep eyes, and a high-nose bridge, just like a general who walked out of a book. I finally know why Ethan Chin is always jealous of him and dislikes him. It must be because Adrian has a decent face. How about this, don't think about it, all of you sign. Adrian, who was still wandering, was suddenly stunned, and his eyes happened to stare at me. Are you sure? His voice was hoarse and low. I smiled and nodded. In my impression, he is a very business-minded person. As long as you create an opportunity for him, he can have infinite possibilities. It's just a pity that such an excellent person, at the peak of his career, killed someone. His status at that time was even higher than Ethan Chin. He should have had a great life, but he had to spend the rest of his life in prison. It's really not right. Sylvia, this student is not as good as the Chin classmate just now. Are you sure you want to choose him? Dean Zhang wanted to say a few more words, but I felt unhappy. It is rumored that Dean Zhang is only concerned about his students. It seems that this rumor is wrong. Dean Zhang hurriedly explained, I don't mean that. I'm just afraid that you don't understand the situation and will be deceived. Dad, I'm tired. I leaned on my father's shoulder and yawned several times in a row. Seeing this, my father felt very distressed. Okay, I will ask someone to draft a contract and send it over later. If there is nothing else, we will leave first. As soon as we left the door, Ethan Chin followed. Sylvia, I don't understand. Dad laughed after hearing this. This classmate, shouldn't we be the ones who don't understand? Ethan Sheen realized that he was being rude, so he could only watch me leave. Dad shook his head. Students nowadays don't put their minds to where they should be. They think about these things all day long. I didn't say anything because I wouldn't let him get anything from me again. I am the only daughter of the Su family, and I am also a late-born child. So my parents think it is not easy, so they dote on me twice as much. It is also because of this reason that my health is not very good, so I have been withdrawn since I was a child, and I have very few friends. It was not until I met Ethan Sheen that I felt that he was my salvation. Who knew that every time we met, he had carefully calculated it? I stood in front of the window, looking at the tall building in front of me, and I felt like I had lost and regained it. Miss Su, there is a program at Beijing University this Thursday. Do you want to go and see it? I looked at the scenery outside the window, but I didn't say anything. Secretary Liu, how long have you been with me? To reply to Miss Su, since you started interning at Su's until now. I nodded. Secretary Liu, you should still participate more in charity and public welfare activities like this in the future, and turn down all the dinners that are not related to work. Secretary Liu hesitated for a moment, a little puzzled. Didn't Miss Su not have any interest in these things before? I explained that my father has been doing charity for many years, and as a daughter, I naturally cannot fall behind. In the past, I was not in good health, and my father was always worried that I would be tired, so he only gave me some simple things to do, but he was afraid that I was dull and would get sick if I didn't interact with people for a long time, so he often organized dinners for me. Now I don't need it. After dealing with the small things at hand, I have been busy with work, either attending meetings or traveling, and my life is still comfortable. Until Ethan Sheen broke into my office. Sylvia, I want to talk to you. I was a little unhappy. How can anyone come in? Security guard, kick him out. Ethan Sheen rushed over and said, Sylvia, please give me 3 minutes, just 3 minutes. He went on to say, I can give you greater benefits. As long as you support me, I will definitely not let you down. Please give me a chance to prove myself. I have to say that he is very smart and knows what kind of character Sylvia appreciates. But he doesn't know that the previous Sylvia had been killed by him a long time ago. Besides, I know his own strength very well. The reason why he can become powerful is because I give him advice behind his back. 3 minutes are up, security guard. The security guard dragged him out directly. I called the front desk and no one without an appointment will be allowed in. Who knew that Ethan Sheen would not restrain himself at all? That afternoon, I received the news that Adrian was beaten, so I hurried there. I also found a doctor to see him. Fortunately, he was just a little injured. In addition to new injuries, he also had many old injuries. Although he didn't say it, I actually knew everything. Ethan Sheen was venting his anger on Adrian. This Ethan Sheen was really ruthless. You are really good-tempered. If it were an ordinary person, he would have gone up to fight him. Adrian smiled bitterly. There is no way. I still hope to graduate smoothly. What are you going to do after graduation? Maybe I have to make money to pay off my debts first. Let's not talk about me first. Why did Sylvia come here? I naturally won't tell him that I have planted my people in the school. I just happened to pass by and wanted to see how you were doing these days, but I heard the news that you were injured. He believed it. I never asked Sylvia why you chose me. After all, my reputation in this school is quite bad. Of course I know the reason for his bad reputation, it's because Ethan Sheen spread rumors everywhere. It's nothing, just a little effort. Adrian seemed to believe it again. Then Sylvia, won't there be any additional conditions? I smiled at him, of course, if you are willing, it's not impossible. Adrian coughed awkwardly and changed the subject deliberately. Why didn't Sylvia come to the school celebration a few days ago? She is too old to participate in activities for young people. The air suddenly became quiet, but I found that his ears were red. This made me want to tease him unconsciously. Suddenly, I thought of something and prepared to pull open his collar. This move undoubtedly scared him. Sylvia, please respect yourself. I just want to see your peace locket. He was stunned and his face was full of confusion. How do you know I have a peace locket? You forgot that I saw it last time and thought it was strange, so I took a few more glances. Anyway, don't lose this thing. Although Adrian didn't understand, he did it. The car stopped steadily at the door of Adrian's house. Before getting off the car, I handed him a few materials, all about economics, management and the like. I also specifically told him to read carefully. But I didn't expect him to refuse directly. Sylvia, you may not know that I am not interested in this. Then just tear it for fun. Then I closed the car door and drove away. It turns out that I still underestimated Ethan Chen's means. My father came to me that day. Sylvia, do you have time this weekend? I suddenly had a bad feeling. Then my father continued. The Song family found their long-lost child. Do you have time to send a gift for me? Suddenly I felt a buzz in my head, and my thoughts completely stopped at this moment. This is earlier than I expected. In the previous life, Ethan Chen was announced at the 90th birthday of the old man of the Song family. With a paternity test, no one would not believe it. In addition, many media came and used public opinion to force the Song family to admit his relationship. This trick was taught to him by me. It's just that there are still 10 days before the birthday. He is so impatient, I think he can't wait. Then as an old friend, I naturally want to give him a big gift. I want him to fall to the bottom and be cursed when he is most proud of his life. That day, I brought many well-known people in the Beijing circle to congratulate him. Not only that, he also brought a lot of media friends. Because we just met not long ago, the Song family did not plan to make it public. So when they saw the media coming uninvited, they were all dumbfounded. Only Ethan Chen was full of joy. He ran to me quickly. Sylvia, you are here, I know you can't let me go. Our actions were quickly captured by reporters. Even other people in the Song family didn't expect us to have contact. I helped him straighten his tie, showing an ambiguous feeling of extreme pulling. I just want everyone to misunderstand our relationship. Sure enough, within half a day, major economic platforms were reporting on the cooperation between the Song and Su families. And Ethan Chen also gained a firm foothold in the Song family. This young man is very clever. Sylvia, you should stay away from such people. Dad saw the report and understood it at a glance. In the previous life, Ethan Chen began to manipulate me in order to become more powerful, and secretly transferred the shares of Su Group to his name. In the end, Su Group went bankrupt under his improper operation. When my father learned the news, he was so angry that he died on the spot. I looked at my father who had aged a lot in front of me, and my eyes unconsciously turned red. I hugged him. Dad, don't worry, I know my limits. The past is still vivid in my mind. How could I let Ethan Chen have an easy time? I deliberately left Ethan Chen alone for a few days, and he really got anxious. He asked around the world about my whereabouts. Until he showed up in the bar. I said, you are an iron tree that never blooms for thousands of years. Why did you fail this time? My friend joked. I shook the red wine glass in my hand and took a sip gently. Suddenly he snorted coldly. Is he worthy? You don't know. I'm tired of looking at his face every day. Look at the people dancing in the pool. Who doesn't look better than him? My friend continued to ask, so you regret it? There is no regret. After all, I didn't agree to be with him at all. It was all his wishful thinking, and he was shameless and pestering me. At this time, the door opened. Ethan Chen's face was pale, and the corners of his eyes were red, like a wounded bird. He walked to my side carefully and asked unwillingly, it's impossible, tell me this is not true. Seeing that I didn't speak, he became anxious. Please don't be so cruel to me. Okay, if I did anything wrong, I will change it. I lifted my eyelids and glanced at him indifferently. Okay, then you go and dance for us, I'll think about it. It's not appropriate to let the young master of the Song family dance. Although I also want to see whether the young master of the Song family dances, as well as those men dancing outside. Friends started to make a fuss, which made Ethan Chen's face very embarrassed. After all, he is a public figure now, so he can't lose face. It's boring, let's go, the blame is on me. I stood up and walked out the door, and Ethan Chen followed closely. Why do you want to humiliate me? His throat was dry, he took a breath, and his eyes were full of grievances. I didn't say anything, but glanced at him coldly, making him feel a little uneasy. Because in the last life, he treated me like this. I remember that time when he was drunk and I went to pick him up. I heard him laugh at my age with everyone, saying that regardless of my age, just looking at my face, I could be his mother. He also said that he is successful in his career now, all thanks to his own efforts and knowledge. But he forgot that I was once a socialite in the Beijing circle, the daughter of many people's dreams. But after marrying him, the company didn't care about me anymore, and I stayed at home to serve my parents-in-law all day, and there were endless housework to do every day, so I had no time to dress myself up. Besides, I was only 5 years older than him, but he despised me as a yellow-faced woman. Now it's just to let him experience the feeling of being humiliated in public. Adrian walked towards me slowly with an umbrella, and we were ready to leave on foot. Ethan Chen was unwilling to give up, and shouted behind him, "Do you know that the man in front of you has killed someone before?" Adrian was stunned, his hands clenched, his lips pursed, and his face pale. At this moment, we both confirmed that each other was reborn with memories. But so what, it won't affect what I'm going to do at all. The eldest young master of the Song family should pay more attention to your words and deeds, and don't lose your hard-earned identity one day. After saying a warning, I took Adrian and left. I collected a lot of information and gave it to Adrian. Because I know that these will be of great help to him in the future. Although he said he was not interested in these, I know he will definitely read them. But what worries me most at the moment is whether he will repeat the same mistakes as in his previous life. Adrian frowned and seemed very unhappy. What, are you still thinking about what happened just now? He shook his head. Ethan Chen is a lunatic. The words of a lunatic are naturally untrustworthy. Although he always smiles, I know that he is very fragile inside. When I returned home, my father was sitting on the sofa. He had obviously seen the news about me and Ethan Chen, and his face was very heavy. I have heard about your affairs with Ethan Chen. Alas, Dad is old, and this company will still be handed over to you in the future. I am just afraid that no one will take care of you after Dad is gone. I hugged Dad and said that Dad will definitely live 100 years. He touched my head and said that Ethan Chen is a cunning man. You should make a decision when necessary. But I think Adrian is a good kid. He will do great things in the future. If you stay with him, maybe he can protect you in the future. Dad, I don't want my partner to have any impure ingredients in it. This is not good for us. Yes, Dad is old and can't manage anymore. Then he got up and went back to his room. I looked at his slow back and my nose was sour. Dad, I'm sorry, I disappointed you. But only by doing this can I protect the Su family and you. I was in a meeting that day, but I received a call saying that something happened at Adrian's home. When I arrived, Adrian was standing by the side in a daze, like a poor little thing that no one wanted. I looked at the blood on his hands, afraid that he would do something stupid. But he smiled, as if he was acting like a spoiled child. You are here, I am listening to you, and didn't fight back. I comforted him and walked to Zhang's father. Didn't I tell you not to come to him? It seems that you still didn't listen to me. Zhang's father pretended to be stupid. Who are you? I don't know you at all. A few days ago, I was afraid that Adrian's family affairs would affect him, So I found Zhang's father alone and gave him a sum of money to keep him away from Adrian and his mother. Now the money has been lost, but he refuses to admit it. I snorted with a smile. If I tell the police that you robbed and harassed me, the money was obviously given to me by yourself. But who saw it? I'm not related to you. Do you think they believe you or me? You dare to plot against me, bitch. I'm his father, it's only natural for him to respect me. I suddenly felt that he was a little ridiculous, a little shameful. I walked slowly towards him, close to his ear, and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "Are you sure? If it turns out that it's not, then you will be legally responsible. After all, those people are not as good-tempered as me. I have an agreement here, if you don't sign it, you should know the consequences." After dealing with Adrian's family affairs, he went to discuss cooperation with peace of mind. I went to several technology companies you asked me to visit, and the talks were going well at the beginning, but when it came to signing, they suddenly changed their minds. The business world is like a battlefield, and you won't know the result until the last moment. As soon as we got off the car, we saw Ethan Chin coming out of Xinjiang Technology, followed by a female college student. When I saw the other person's face clearly, my eyes suddenly widened. It's her, say Weiner. I didn't expect them to meet so soon. In my impression, they should have met after graduation, but now it's less than half a year since graduation. At that time, Say Weiner had just come out to look for a job, and he went to the Song group. Because of his outstanding personality and appearance, he was spotted by Ethan Chin at first sight and became his personal secretary. Now it seems that they have known each other for a long time. I was the only one who was kept in the dark. The CEO of Xinjiang Technology is a friend of my father, but now Ethan Chin has taken the lead. I guess Ethan Chin must have given enough benefits, so he must have snatched it away. It seems that there is no need for me to fight for it. Let's go. But I found that Adrian stared at Say Weiner for a few more times. What, do you know each other? No. You stared at her even though you didn't know her. I thought she was pretty, and you couldn't help but look at her a few more times. Her nose was obviously asymmetrical, obviously she had plastic surgery. Then he said, the reason why I remember her so clearly is because she pursued me. She made a bet with her friends about how long it would take to win me over. But it's not surprising when you think about it. After all, Adrian is the cold flower of Beijing University. Who doesn't want to look at her a few more times? Then why didn't you agree? I don't like her. We have the same nostrils, but she has them on the top of her head. After being rejected, she slandered me everywhere, saying that I was not good enough and there were problems everywhere. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Have you ever thought that Ethan Chin targeted you because of these reasons? He should target me because I am prettier than him and I study better than him. I suddenly found that he was even thicker-skinned than Ethan Chin. But looking at him seriously, he was quite cute. We get along very well and are no longer as unfamiliar as at the beginning. Occasionally, we can still joke and talk about future plans. But the sudden scandal pushed me to the forefront again. Miss Sue, the public opinion is almost out of control. Everyone is saying that you are indecisive and two-timing. Be prepared for public relations. This time, the public opinion must be someone who bought a water army. You find the leader and send a lawyer's letter. I naturally know that this is Ethan Chin's handiwork. I immediately found him. You are faster than I expected. Aren't you just waiting for me? Here I come, tell me your conditions. Ethan Chin handed me a cup of brewed tea. You see, the internet knows about our relationship. If the news of you and another man is exposed at this time, it may damage the interests of the Su family. I suddenly laughed out loud. Ethan Chin, I think you are worried that your position in the Song family will be lost. Therefore, we only have marriage, which is the safest solution. I will withdraw all the news immediately and clarify it for you. If necessary, I will always stand behind you. I drank tea carelessly. Okay. Ethan Chin thought he had misheard. After all, he had never thought that I would agree so readily. After staying for another half an hour, I returned to the company. But I saw a woman sitting in my seat. Miss Sue, she said she was your future mother-in-law, and we dared not stop her. I glanced at Secretary Lou coldly, and he lowered his head guiltily. In the blink of an eye, I had walked in front of her. Madam, if you don't leave my seat, I will call security guard. I met her calculating eyes, and the familiar feeling of the last life came over me. She was wearing the latest style and her hair was combed up, but she still couldn't hide her poor look. Sylvia, we will be a family in the future, you won't really drive me away, right? A family? Why don't I remember having a relative like you? She shook her head. My son is Ethan Chin, you are my future daughter-in-law, I have seen the news about you too. I sneered, laughing at her for being exactly the same as in the last life, the same old feudalism. I remember that in my last life, after I had a miscarriage, my mother-in-law believed that I was unlucky and was entangled by some dirty things, so she invited a Taoist priest to perform a ritual. It was also at that time that I developed a root of illness. When it rained, my head would hurt badly. Now that I think about it, it's really not worth it. Oh? Are you sure your son is Ethan Chin? But I remember that he is the heir of the Song family. You have to have a decent relationship. He is really my son, I didn't lie. I don't care what your relationship is. You never want to prove it to me. Besides, the outside world now believes that he is a member of the Song family. If you still make trouble, don't blame me for being rude. After driving her away, I picked up my phone and looked at the hot searches. I have to say that Ethan Chin is very capable and has cleared all my black material. When Adrian learned that I agreed to Ethan Chin's proposal, we had our first argument. In a blink of an eye, half a year, I threw 2 big projects to Ethan Chin in a row, which made his status in the Song family rise sharply. I became the heir of the Song family. On my birthday, Ethan Chin proposed to me in public. The news of the marriage between the Song and Sue families became a hot topic. On the eve of the engagement, Adrian rushed in. He asked, "You obviously don't love him, why don't you want to go with me?" I deliberately turned away. Feelings can be cultivated slowly. I ask you one last time, are you willing to leave with me? Seeing my silence, Adrian was so angry that he punched the wall until his hand bled. When he left, he looked at me with a look of sadness and unwillingness. 3 months later, we had a grand wedding. Ethan Chin looked at me affectionately, and when the priest asked us if we were willing, he chose yes, without hesitation. Just as everyone was about to applaud and cheer, a kissing photo of Ethan Chin and Say Weiner suddenly appeared on the screen. There was even an 8-minute video. For a while, everyone was talking about it. At this time, a man stood up and shouted, "He is fake, he is not the lost child of the Song family at all. I have proof here." He showed the test report in his hand to the Song family. Song's father was so angry that his face turned green, and he raised his hand and slapped Ethan Chin. Ethan Chin stared at the picture in disbelief, and then looked at Song's father in front of him, and he was speechless for a while. "Dad, I didn't, this is definitely someone framing me." Suddenly pointed at the man just now. "It must be that my second brother is dissatisfied with my inheritance of the Song family, so he wants to frame me, so that he can gain a foothold in the Song family." "I framed you? Do you really think that Dad doesn't know these things? He just hopes that you can be a good heir and don't have too much expectations for other things. You have thrown Dad's teachings behind your head." Ethan Chin couldn't believe it, and took 2 steps back in despair. This person wanted to run, I stopped him. The bodyguard stopped Say Weiner and led her forward. She knelt on the ground. "No, Chairman Song, please listen to my explanation. There is really nothing between young Master Song and me. The family tradition of the Song family is really not flattering. Old song, my Sue family will definitely investigate this matter to the end. Sylvia, let's go. Dad pulled me away directly. Ethan Sheen, who reacted at this time, suddenly shouted, "It's you who did it, right? It must be you. You are a woman with a vicious heart." Seeing that the situation was out of control, Father Song personally sent Ethan Sheen to the police station. I was walking alone under the beautiful sunset. Suddenly, a figure slowly approached me. After Ethan Sheen left, Say Weiner was also sent away by Mr. Song. Later, Ethan Sheen's parents also came to the Song family to make trouble and demanded that Ethan Sheen be released. The still angry Mr. Song naturally refused to let him go, so he kept him in prison for a while longer. Did you know that you are the heir of the Song family? Adrian did not shy away from it. When you asked me about the peace buckle, I already knew it vaguely. But I didn't want to bother him, after all, he never admitted me. Yes, even though Mr. Song knew that Ethan Sheen was a fake, he didn't expose him, and even let him take the position of heir. And I also know that Mr. Song knew about the matter between Ethan Sheen and Say Weiner, but he turned a blind eye. Because he knew that Ethan Sheen was not a member of the Song family, so no matter what happened, it had nothing to do with the Song family. Even if Ethan Sheen was the heir, Mr. Song was the one who really held power. We know this better than anyone else. Suddenly Adrian looked at me very seriously. Sylvia, if I ask you again, will you go with me this time? Or I ask it in a different way, are you willing to be my girlfriend? Suddenly the phone rang. Sylvia, come back soon, your dad is dying. My brain is like a kite with a broken string, my ears are buzzing, and I can't hear anything. When I rushed to the hospital, my father was gone. I was ashen-hearted and stared blankly ahead. I didn't expect that in a new life, some things are still inevitable. No matter how I try to remedy it, it's useless. I slowly closed my eyes, and my eyes couldn't stop shaking. Your father died of a sudden heart attack. Before that, his physical condition had already had problems. He was afraid that you would worry, so he never told you. Holding the report in my hand, I burst into tears. If I had found it earlier, would he not have been in trouble? Adrian hugged me and comforted me softly. I went back to the company to pack up my father's belongings, and slowly fell into deep thought. Miss Sue, please accept my condolences. Secretary Liu, I heard that Songs tried to recruit you some time ago? Secretary Liu was shocked and quickly explained, they had this idea, but I rejected it directly. I nodded. If you want to go, you can go. Miss Sue, I don't understand. Is it because I didn't do well enough? You leaked my whereabouts to others, which should be considered a leak to some extent. Or do you plan to sue? No, Miss Sue, give me another chance, I promise not to do it again, I really know I was wrong. I didn't forgive him for what he did, but I just fired him for his hard work for the company. After all, Sues can't tolerate people who sell out their masters for glory. After dealing with my father's funeral, I went to the police station. Looking at Ethan Sheen in such a mess, I was not as happy as I thought. What, are you really together? Tell me, why do you hate him so much from the first time you saw him? Everyone will be jealous of people who are better than themselves, and you actually asked me why. He seemed to have many questions in his heart. Since you don't like me, why are you willing to spread rumors with me, and why don't you ever explain those misunderstandings? I have never liked you, only hate you. Ethan Sheen seemed to have heard some big joke, and there was a look of disdain between his eyebrows. Do you think Adrian is a good thing? He is just like in the last life, a scumbag who has to do some impossible things, and finally hurts himself. This made me shocked. What do you mean? Seeing my confused face, Ethan Sheen laughed out loud. Even if you Sylvia are so powerful, you will still end up alone. What's the difference between you and me? Under my questioning, I learned that the reason why Adrian was framed for murder in the last life was because my father saw that Ethan Sheen was unreliable at the time, so he secretly asked Adrian to protect me, but he didn't expect that this would cause Ethan Chen's dissatisfaction. It turns out, he has been by my side in these 2 lives. As soon as I walked out of the door, it started snowing outside. Adrian walked towards me holding an umbrella. I think this time, it must be God's will and our hearts will that let us meet again.